G'day Pirates and welcome to Bounty for Beginners. If you're a player that's participated in multiple bounty events, then these videos are probably not for you. I've geared these towards those that are trying out bounty for the first time or who've tried out bounty in the past and have struggled to hold on to their bounty. This first video is on the basics of bounty. The second video is geared towards using strategies to make your bounty event a success. Hopefully by the end of these videos you'll have an understanding on how it all works, and I'll have given you some tips that will help you to get and secure as much bounty as possible so you can get some great prizes. Bounty is a monthly PvP event. That is, it's player versus player. You can earn bounty points during the event and then spend them in the bounty store at the end of the event. In order to participate in bounty, you need to opt into the bounty event. You can do this by clicking on your outpost and then selecting bounty and then joining. Once you've joined, you have the ability to upgrade your outpost defenses using resources. These defenses can be handy against base attacks. During the event, the amount of bounty points you have is displayed where your medal count normally is shown on the top left of the HUD. You can also click the diamond on the left of your screen and it will bring up your bounty information screen. Before we dive into where you get your bounty and how to hang on to your bounty, I want to go over the different types of bounty points. This is very important, and understanding the difference is key to tracking where you are in the event. There are two types of bounty, secured and unsecured. Secured bounty is bounty that's locked away. It's protected and nobody can take that bounty away from you. The second is unsecured bounty. These bounty points are not protected and are at risk and can be stolen by other players through successful base attacks. You want as little amount of bounty as possible in an unsecured state. The total bounty is the sum of the secured and unsecured bounty, and this is the amount that's displayed during the event where your medals are normally shown. So how do we get and hold on to bounty points? There are 4 ways for you to receive bounty in the event. There are periodic bounty grants. You can get bounty from hitting player bases. You can receive bounty from a successful base defense, and you can earn bounty by hitting map targets. The first way to get bounty points is from grants. By participating in the event, you'll receive periodic bounty grants. You get 1 grant at the start of the event, and then you'll receive an additional grant every 6 hours. The grant amounts are currently 800 bounty points. Because most of us have lives and we can't log into the game every 6 hours to get the bounty grants, the bounty grant functionality actually allows the system to store and hold 1 grant. If you miss a grant, it will be held until the next time that you log in. If you miss multiple grants, only 1 grant will be held. In the top example, you receive the grant at 10 AM in the morning, and let's say you log off at 11 AM and then you log back in at 9 PM that night. The 4 PM grant that you missed while off the game is held for you and awarded to you when you log back on. In the bottom example, you get the 10 AM grant and then you log off again at 11 and don't log back in until 11 PM that night. The game will hold the 4 PM grant for you, but no more. You would lose that 10 PM grant. No matter how many consecutive grants you miss, the game will only store 1 grant for you until you log back in. The second way we can get bounty in the event is by hitting other player bases. Every player that participates in bounty has a little yellow diamond to the left of their base. The more bounty the player is worth to you, the brighter that diamond glows. You can click on the base to see how much bounty they're worth to you. You can only get bounty if the player you are hitting has more unsecured bounty than you. When you hit another player and the attack is successful, you can win 50% of their unsecured bounty. That 50% amount you win is what is displayed on the base. You do not lose bounty if you fail in a base. If you have bookmarks of bases that you're familiar with, go ahead and check them regularly if they're participating in bounty. Even if they say they're worth 0 to you now, they may actually be worth bounty to you later in the event. If you come across a base that has a bubble, you can still select that base and it will show you how much bounty the player is worth. It will also show you how much time is left on their bubble. So if I know that I can hit this player and beat him, I can keep an eye on his bubble timer and come back and visit him later when his bubble's ready to drop. Another way to identify bases that are worth bounty to you is to use the locator. During the bounty event, the bounty locator is populated with bases in your sector, as well as a few sectors either side that are worth bounty to you. The locator will indicate the base name, as well as give you a map shortcut to where that base is, and it also lists how much that base has in available bounty. So let's say you found a base that's worth bounty to you and they don't have a bubble. In order for you to steal some of their unsecured bounty, you have to be able to beat them with a successful attack. During bounty, a successful attack means that you have to get at least 2 stars for the base hit. This means at least 50% base damage, and the outpost has to be destroyed. Now here's my first tip. Pay attention when hitting bases, because if you hit a base and the base was already damaged, you can still get bounty from that base, even if the OP is already destroyed. If you enter the base and all there is left of the base is, let's say, an oil rig, you want to go ahead and finish that base as it's considered 100% hit. You'll receive 3 stars and their bounty. Even though the OP was already destroyed, because you 100%ed the base, the bounty can be stolen. These are easy bounty points. Another thing to keep in mind is bubble times are reduced when participating in bounty. Instead of the normal bubble times, the maximum bubble that you can get during the event is 4 hours. Don't be alarmed by this, as we can use this to our advantage later in the event. If you're going out to hit bases and you're using Conqueror hulls, don't forget that during the bounty event there is a separate Conqueror repair queue. This acts exactly the same as the regular repair queue, but it's only for Conqueror hulls. This repair queue runs in tandem with the regular repair queue. Now here's another tip. If you've got a damaged Conqueror fleet, you can split your Conqueror fleet into 2, repair half of the holes in the Conqueror queue and the other half of the holes in the regular repair queue at the same time. This will cut down your base of repair time significantly. Base hits, short bubble times. Right now you're probably thinking, wait a damn minute, I'm going to be hit non-stop during bounty. I don't have time for that. I've got stuff building and I don't want to lose shipyard build or refit times because I'm flat and off the game. One of the things that KIXEYE did when implementing bounty is they made the decision that while bounty event is on, if you're participating and your base gets hit, both of your shipyard refits and build times are not affected. So even if you get hit at midnight and you don't log on until 10 AM the next morning, you don't lose that 10 hours of refit and building. That's going to continue in the background while you're logged off, and you won't lose any time on any of your builds. The third way that you can get bounty in the event is by hitting map targets. These are player replica bases. This was something new that KIXEYE implemented with the last bounty event, and it was a huge success. KIXEYE copied every player's base who had participated in the prior bounty event, and then they loaded these copied bases onto the map for us to hit to get bounty points. These replica bases spawn around the DRAC bases, and there are different levels of bases. There are also different points payouts for each of the levels. We'll actually go through some tips on hitting these a little later on the video. The fourth way to earn bounty in the event is from a successful base defense. The player attacking you must be a participant of bounty in order for you to get the defense bounty points. A successful base defense means that your attacker earned less than 2 stars and the attacker took at least 10% damage to their fleet during the attack, or your base has to take at least 20% or more damage. So if somebody comes along and hits your base and they fail hard, then you actually get awarded a base defense bounty amount. For the last couple of events that we've had, this has been 200 bounty points. You can earn this up to 5 times a day. So if you think about this, you can actually have a bounty player hit your base with a gunboat and die, and then you get 200 defense bounty points for each of those hits. This becomes key later on when we talk about strategy, in that you can get 1,000 points a day just from somebody suiciding a gunboat in your base 5 times. We've talked about how you can earn bounty in the event, and we know that we need to secure our bounty in order to protect it. So how do we go about doing that? You secure your bounty by reaching checkpoints. There are multiple checkpoints through the day, and as you get enough bounty points and reach that checkpoint, your bounty moves from unsecured and into secured. If we look at the example on the screen, you can see that this player has got about 5,100 in secured bounty. That bounty is protected and no one can take that from the player. Then we see that he's got about 1,300 in unsecured bounty. Some of that bounty could be stolen if they were hit and the attacker met the criteria for taking the bounty. If we look at the top, you'll see that at the next checkpoint is 2,000 points. So as soon as that player gets the 700 extra points and reaches his 2000 checkpoint, that bounty, the 2000, will then move from the unsecured bounty into the secured bounty. Here's a copy of the daily checkpoints that we've had for the last couple of bounty events. We can see that the first 4 checkpoints every day happen in 2000 point increments. These are fairly easy to get to, even for a lower level player. The last checkpoint for each day is much larger in bounty points. So between checkpoint 4 and 5, you run the risk of having a large amount of unsecured bounty that can be stolen by other players. If you don't have a very strong base defense, then you might want to think very carefully about going for that last checkpoint. If you are able to defend and you want to make that last checkpoint, at certain checkpoint levels you'll actually receive a chest. These can contain uranium, structure tokens, VXP tokens, and Conqueror tokens. So how do I get the goodies with all the points that I've earned in bounty? At the end of the bounty event, you get to spend your bounty points in the bounty store. I've shown the lower prizes and their costs from the last event. As you can see, there are different point costs for different prizes. If you do nothing more than reach a couple of checkpoints each day through the event, you can still pick up some pretty good stuff. That concludes part 1, Bounty Basics. Hopefully you now have a good understanding of the basics of the event. Please see the link in the description below this video for part 2. That's where we're going to talk about strategies for holding on to your bounty.